UNO has always been an expanding university, constantly moving forward. But as we move forward, we must also look back to where we began. Let's go back in time with the people who remember UNO the way it was. Join us for Reflections in Time.
A warm welcome on a rather warm late spring day in the spring of 1991. As we often have been in months and years past, we're in a beautiful faculty lounge in the Health, Physical Education and Recreation building at UNO, a newer part of our campus of Omaha University at one time and now University of Nebraska at Omaha. And we're doing what we've come to call, as was mentioned in the opening, Reflections in Time. And what we've been doing with some 70 people now who have often, in many cases, retired from the university, we've talked to them about their impressions of life here and life around the university, based on the premise that people are the important part of our university. And today is no exception. I have with me for a good visit a friend of long standing, Dr. Donald Shult, a professor in our physics department. He's been there for a lot of years, and he'll tell us more about that. But Don, you know, as we start our reflecting on you and your family's time, where did it all begin for you? Where are you from, Don?
I was born in South Dakota, but I lived there for less than a year, and then we moved to Illinois, and I was raised in Illinois, educated in Illinois.
What did your family do? What did your dad do?
My father was a Methodist minister. I was born in the parsonage.
You're a PK, just like me.
Yes, yes. And my mother had the local preacher's license, so when he couldn't take the pulpit, she would do the preaching. In fact, they liked her better because she had a louder voice.
Were you a big family, or?
No, just the two of us, my brother and myself. And my father died when I was 2, so it was really just 3 of us, my mother, my brother, and myself. But she had all but a master's degree, all but a thesis of her master's degree from Northwestern. And so she was able to hold us together during the Depression because of that education.
Did she teach, or what did she do?
She taught country schools. And we moved around a lot because Illinois was going through the consolidation process.
Did you go to country school, Don?
Oh, I did, you bet.
How'd you like that?
Well, I really went to one country school. Most of the time I was in towns of 60 people.
Oh, well, that's a little
Terre Haute, Illinois, 60 people. And then Biggsville, Illinois, 250 people. Stronghurst, 750. That's until I got to high school. I was the Stronghurst was the big
Now you're
town.
getting pretty big.
Yes.
But your mom taught in a lot of one-room schools then?
Yes, yes. And she had the strength to hold us together during that time at $30 a month. Later, $40 a month, 8 months a year. That was our income.
Did you as boys start to get odd jobs and stuff as time went along and pick up a little too?
Until I could earn some money, I had to go out to my uncle's farm and live in the summer and live with them. My brother would stay there because he could earn money. Then when we could start earning money, I remember one year, Mother took a job painting this farmer's barns and house, and we picked it was a truck farm, and we picked first strawberries, then peas, and then beans, and so forth, and did that for the summer to stay together.
Sounds like you learned to work early in life.
Yes. Mother was very strong with that and very strong on education. In fact, she used to say, without education and background, the opportunities just don't come, or you won't recognize them if they do.
And that's been borne out for you all these years, hasn't it?
Yes.
Well, it sounds like you got off to a rather tough, but a lot of people had it that way in the Depression, but good start.
I've often said that it wasn't so hard being poor during the Depression when everybody's poor. Being poor now when most people have plenty, that's tough.
Yes.
That's much tougher.
Yes. Well, Illinois then as a boy and country schools and small towns, what happened as life went along then for you, Don?
Well, Mother finally moved. My grandfather died, and she was taking care of my grandmother for a fee, and my grandmother paid her $100 a month, and so we moved to Macomb, Illinois, where Western Illinois University was.
Oh, yeah.
And that way I would be able to go to college. And my brother could go to college there also, but he went to the Navy, then got out of the Navy, took the GI Bill, went to University of Illinois, and I stayed at went to Western Illinois University until I graduated.
So you got your undergraduate degree then at
Western.
Your hometown, in effect?
Yes.
At the time.
Living at home.
And I imagine that was fairly inexpensive then, wasn't it? Comparatively to now.
No. It was $75 a quarter, which is $225 a year. But minimum wage was then what I was earning, is 50 cents an hour.
Oh, that makes it a lot.
Now, if you take minimum wage now at $4 an hour, that's 8 times as much. 225 times 8 is $1,600. That's not too far different than what we're paying now.
No.
What the students are paying now.
In a comparative way, about the same, probably.
Yes. In fact, books are about the same, but our calculators, my slide rule cost me $20.
Mm-hmm.
And it did not do as much as my students' calculators now that cost them 10. Only mine was a 40-hour week to get my calculator.
Yeah, yeah. Did you have to work a lot of the time then when you were going to school?
I worked 40 to 50 hours a week.
So you were a full-time student and a full-time worker?
16-hour loads. Yes, back in those days it was different. We had to take 16 hours or you had to get permission from the dean to take less or more.
But now we wouldn't usually advise a student to take 16 hours and then work full-time, would we?
No. No. In fact, my rule I tell students is if you take your work hours and add twice your credit hours, it should add up to 45 or in that neighborhood. If you go over that, you're going to hurt your grades.
Mm-hmm. I think that's borne out in lots of cases. Sad results from all these payments and heavy workload and not enough time spent in school.
But a lot of students make a mistake moving out from home and live in an apartment because they want to feel free at their home.
Sure, sure.
But they do it too early. And if they lived at home and get their room and board free, they could do a lot better in their education.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They just have to work for the tuition.
Now, it sounds like, from what you've told me so far, Don, that your mother was a shining example to you of a lot of things, including a teacher. Was that the place you caught the bug, or how did it come about in your own life?
Kind of accidentally, the teaching part, although I did get training as a teacher when I was an undergraduate. The mother did several things. First of all, she said always treat and judge anybody as an individual, not by race, color, or anything else, just as an individual, and always try to do the things they do. And that has helped me actually a lot in my teaching.
Wonderful
treating
advice.
Students that way. As far as the education is concerned, I had two really fine teachers. My high school physics teacher, who later was my critic teacher when I was doing practice teaching, and then my first physics teacher I had in college, made physics a lot of fun. And they made the tough material easy to learn because it was fun. And they had corny jokes, and they did a lot of applications in your everyday life, so you understood the importance of it, and I've kind of followed their example as well.
So part of your education got to be fun then?
Yes, although when I graduated from college, I told my mother, you'll never see me in a classroom again. And I went to work with the Air Force in a school, teaching in an Air Force radio school, but then got drafted, just interim, because I knew I was going to be drafted during the Korean War. And then I got drafted, spent the 2 years in the service, and got out and thought, well, I'm going to try teaching. I taught when I was in service and kind of liked it.
First you said no, and then you started to teach right away, and then they came back to it.
They forced me into it. I was teaching.
You didn't have
I thought I had a degree in teaching and a degree in physics. They wanted me to teach automotive mechanics to the in OCS. So I taught that while I was in service. And I kind of liked the teaching. Not so much the military teaching, because you had to be at a certain place in your notes at a certain time. And
by the book.
Right, exactly. And if you were 2 pages ahead and the major walks in, you just skip back and just covered that material again. He never knew you were off the schedule. And then the students would kind of smile, but then...
Close order drill with lessons.
But I started enjoying teaching then, and I started high school teaching. And
where did you teach high school?
Oh, Delavan, Illinois, a town of about 1,200 people, about 20 miles south of Peoria. And we lived in Peoria. I'd married by then. We lived in Peoria.
When did you and Donna get together?
Well, it wasn't Donna it was Helen.
Yes.
My first wife was Helen. She had diabetes. She later died of diabetes in 1957. We were married in 54.
I see.
But we had a little boy, and then she passed away. And by that time, I'd quit teaching high school and started teaching at the university, Western Illinois University.
Well, you were staying right in that Illinois area there, weren't you?
That's why I went back to Western and got my master's. I found out that the high school teachers, that $3,200 a year wasn't enough. And you couldn't get a decent job during the summer, so I thought, well, I'll get up on the salary scale by getting a master's degree.
What years would this have been then about?
53 to 57 I was in high school. And then when I finished my master's degree, my professor asked me if I would teach there at Western. So I started teaching at Western then.
So you stayed right on.
Right. Went to Wisconsin during the summer to get more work.
Before you went on with it, how did you enjoy the high school teaching?
I enjoyed it. There was a lot of things I did not like, but in a small town high school, you have to be in a class. You have to have a be class sponsor, and you have to, which means you have to raise money for a junior senior prom, and then later for a senior class trip. So there's a lot of Saturdays spent at chili suppers, bake sales, picking up corn after the corn picker, and then there's all this riding the bus to the out-of-town games and supervising the crowd at the home games. And
a lot of out-of-class
you
stuff.
put in, the normal worker works 2,080 hours a year, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. We put in 2,080 hours between August and April, middle of April.
Yes.
And then still had to go to the end of May.
A lot of people don't realize that terrible load that at elementary and secondary,
It was, right,
secondary can place on you.
We had many preparations. We had a 50-minute period, but we had 9 periods, and I had 7 classes.
Did you teach anything besides physics?
Math.
Uh-huh.
I taught math and science.
So you stayed in your general area then as a teacher. That was
Yes.
nice. Well, but then you had a chance to teach at the university level. This was a little bit of a change for you, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes, and I enjoyed it. You could turn around and face the back, look at the blackboard without worrying about the students.
Yeah.
But actually, the person who teaches math and science in high school gets very few of the persons that are misbehaviors.
The type of student is one who's there
To
with
learn.
some serious mind.
Yeah, they're more serious. The
Mm-hmm.
ones that take the upper level math and physics, they're more serious students, and so you don't get the misfits. I taught a general math one time that was very difficult for me.
Very general, huh?
In fact, I had the principal listen in to give me some pointers on discipline with it, which made a lot of points with the principal too. That I was willing to have him listen in to help.
Well, you enjoyed your high school experience.
Very much.
How
very
about
much.
Western Illinois then?
I enjoyed that as well. I really enjoyed the high school students. I had a couple of students that now one of them has 2 doctorates. I had one fellow, just an outstanding example. He kept us on our toes.
Mm-hmm.
As a freshman even, he was working at the college level.
Is that right?
Yes, and I still remember him. John Curtis was his name. Now he has a PhD in math and a PhD in electrical engineering.
Isn't that neat?
But
That's part of the joy of teaching, isn't it?
yes, it is. In fact, our success is the success of our students.
Oh, yes.
And I look through the telephone book and look at the MDs, and I see 4 or 5 of my students in there, a couple of optometry students in there, and that's part of my success.
Sure, sure. Now, how long did you stay at Western then?
4 years. But in the meantime, we found our son, our oldest boy now, was hard of hearing, quite severely hard of
Oh,
hearing.
is that right? Uh-huh.
And there was no training there in Illinois, in Macomb, and there wasn't an opening at Jacksonville, where the School for the Deaf was. He needed special training.
Mm-hmm.
We did apply through the John Tracy Clinic and got their free materials, because Spencer Tracy's son John was hard of hearing.
Yes.
And they produce a lot of materials that they will send out free of charge if you can't afford it to pay for it. They like donations.
Mm-hmm.
But to people like us, and my wife, Donna, by that time, remarried, she sat and she taught him about 10 words of vocabulary, but it was very difficult.
Oh, sure.
And she was not trained to teach that. So we started looking around for another position where there was hard of hearing training. I sent out 50 applications, got 40 favorable replies with just a master's degree.
Is that right?
The reason was, of course, Sputnik had gone up.
Sputnik and physics were a big time then,
And there wasn't enough people with doctorates.
No.
So I had several choices. I came out to Omaha, and I not only checked the university, and I liked the faculty that I saw here, but I also went down and checked Omaha Hearing School, which at that time was run by Margaret Beale and Ellen Patterson, and they were really marvelous. I just marveled at what they were doing, so we moved out here.
And he could attend there.
Right, he could attend there,
Isn't
and he
that
did
nice?
for 2 years. In 1 year, he went from a 10-word vocabulary to being able to converse with the neighbors.
Is that right?
And they did a marvelous job.
So that was really a family move, wasn't it?
Right. And so he went to the Omaha Hearing School, and by the time he got through that, he still wasn't ready for public school. So we moved to Lincoln to get him to public schools down there, because the Prescott School has a hard of hearing unit.
Uh-huh.
And they did a fine job, so by 6th grade we could move back to Omaha, and he went to regular public school in 7th grade.
Well, it sounds like you did a wonderful job with and for him. And
Yes.
And in your work you were able to do this and still make the move.
Right. When I came here, I was hired by Mabel L, and Mabel L told me I would not be doing any research or going back to school. I'd just be teaching.
What was your first impression of Milo? Think back now, Don.
A man of his word. If he told you got something, you got it. If he told you couldn't have it, you didn't get it. And you didn't argue what's with him. He'd make the decision.
Yeah.
But I was able to talk him into letting me have a leave of absence to work one more year down at Lincoln while my son was getting into school down there. And Mabel L was very strongly a family man. In fact, the announcement of my position is kind of interesting to look at. I didn't bring a copy with me, but the qualifications were male, aged 25 to 35 years of age, and married.
And married.
It didn't say Protestant, which
No.
I'm surprised. But it did say all the other, it did say those things right on the advertisement for the position.
Is that right?
You couldn't do any of those now.
No, indeed not.
And shouldn't.
No.
But I did fit those, and I got the position.
Well, then you found a home here, and here
And
it's
I've
been.
loved Omaha. A lot of people I see in small towns in Nebraska, Omaha is a big, wicked city, and we were apprehensive about moving to a big town like Omaha
Sure.
when we moved here.
Yeah.
In less than a year after we moved here, my wife went to the hospital for 10 days. The neighbors did all my cooking, watched the kids so I could be... to me, Omaha is as friendly as a small town, but not nearly as nosy.
Mm-hmm.
And I really loved it here.
I agree with you. It's a great place.
Great educational processes. Our kids got great education here, public school.
Now, you came to Omaha, and you had a good situation for your son, and you left and came back, but we'll assume now we're
Right.
here. And the campus. As we came to campus today before we did this taping, and if you started to even remember what it was like 20, 30 years ago, wow, it's hard to remember, isn't it? What was your impression, and what was the campus like when you started?
Well, the engineering building was brand new.
Yeah.
It had been there, I think, 1 year, year and a half,
And this was the year...
1961.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mabel L Center was there, but not as large as it is now.
Oh, no.
The Epley building was the library. Now it's and the administration building was all that was here. Now it's Arts and Science Hall. That was the administration building and housed most of the faculty. And then there was the field house.
We had a lot more grass, didn't we?
Much more. And we had some Quonset huts and so forth. And
Yes, we did. Semi-permanent Quonset huts.
Right.
Now, in terms of physics equipment, laboratory staff, people, things like that, what was the department like, Don?
It was small. There was Professor McMillan was chairman.
Mm-hmm.
Myself and Lloyd Ellerbeck were the main physics teachers, and then Mr. Sidlacek, who's now in the Department of Electronics Technology,
Yeah.
the chairman of the Department of Electronics Technology. He taught some of the labs for us and did a lot of the work with our equipment, and was a very fine addition to the faculty that we had. So there was really 4 of us, and we had minimum equipment, but did the best we could with what we had, and produced some persons. First year I was here, I guess it was the second year I was here, we graduated 4 students, 3 of which 5 years later had doctorates.
Is that right?
So they were doing a good job. It was not a poor university even then. Omaha University was not a poor school. It was a good school.
What kinds of students were you attracting? Now, you mentioned the PhDs.
Mostly these students who couldn't afford to go out, and much like we are now. Is the poor persons.
Are most of them, as it continues, ones who are interested in advanced degrees, too?
Yes. In physics, if you get a bachelor's degree, you either will be teaching or you'll be doing engineering type work in industry. But I would say it's probably the persons who are going to graduate school is the main source of our physics students. Persons who want to go into graduate school. We have, of course, a lot of undergraduate physics students that are pre-engineers and pre-med and those, all the other fields.
Oh, sure. But
our physics majors generally aim toward graduate school.
Oh, yeah. What, and we're jumping a little ahead, but we might as well talk about it now. When you, in those early years, when our students that had emphasized your area of concern went out, what kinds of things did they do? Teach, and in turn, are there any different things they're doing now in a comparative way?
John Zenson, Benson High was one of our students. He went out and taught in Benson. He's still there. He's, I think now, in the science of the Omaha Public Schools. I don't think he's at Benson as a teacher now. I think he's science director of Omaha Public Schools. But he was one of our students, and a lot of our students did go out and teach at that time. Those that didn't went on to toward the master's degree or doctorate, and went into industry. We had one fellow who did very well in class, and he went out and he had trouble getting a job. He was a black fellow, and he had trouble getting a job. His name was Donaldson, and but he opened up a business here in Omaha and ran a dry cleaning establishment here in Omaha. And I've had his son in class now.
Is that right?
Yes.
So Dad is doing all right? And
Yes.
That's as we get older, we keep running into these daughters and sons, which makes it kind of interesting, doesn't it?
Yes. I remember the first year I looked at my class and thought, oh my, these students weren't even born when I came to Omaha. It was kind of a funny feeling.
You know, one of the things that happened in the 60s, you were here in time to see it and feel it both ways, was the merger of the university into the University of Nebraska system. And one thing I've asked just about everyone who's been a part of this series that we're doing, Don, is what were your feeling about that? Not now necessarily, but when they started talking about becoming a part of the system and not being the University of Omaha, which was the place that hired you. What was your feeling about all that?
Okay, I'd like to step back first just a little bit more on Milo Bale. Milo Bale had a lot of rules that I didn't like and a lot of people didn't like. He was able to hold this university together with about, I remember, 6,000 to 8,000 students with a $5 million budget. So the money was extremely tight. And I asked him once for a bookcase, a new bookcase. I had a 30-inch wide 3-shelf bookcase in my office, and I'd built it up, and I'd taken some books home so I could get, when I got more books in, I would put them in the bookshelf. And I was sitting at lunch one time with Milo, and I said, I need a new bookcase. And he said, well, the top shelf of your bookcase isn't full. He knew that.
He knew that.
And I told him, well, I'd taken some books home to make room for some other books I've ordered for the classes next semester, and I needed, my wife says there's just not enough room at home either. And 2 days later, there was a 48-inch wide 5-shelf bookcase by my desk with my books in it. And I got it. But you had to really tell him that. He was getting a lot of his money from businessmen who were in that time, in that era particularly. They were very conservative. So he did not allow the faculty the freedom that we should have had in terms of our expression of anything, liberal views, anything like this. He pretty much put the clamps on. And that's what people really did not like him for. A lot of the other rules I can understand. His not wanting to eat in the offices because, as he put it one time, they draw bugs, and money spent on exterminators is not anything with education.
You put your overshoes in your filing cabinet, and he'd know it.
But at the end of the semester, at the end of the fiscal year, if he had any money left over, I was on the library committee with Stan Trickett and Ralph Wardle, Bob Keppel. We got some extra money at the end of the year. If there's any money left over, it went to faculty in bonuses. The faculty who had overloads got bonuses, and the persons who had on the library committee got to spend some money for books.
No, he was very oriented toward the people that were a part of his staff.
Yes.
We could grouse about some of the things he decided, but we knew where he stood.
You knew where he stood, and if he said you had something, you got it. You didn't. There was no change in mind.
Well, the merger itself, now
the merger had to happen.
Yeah.
We all recognized it had to happen, so there was no bad feeling about it. As far as our department is concerned, the people I was associated with, a little fear. You know, change is always a little frightening, but we looked at it, and I think Kirk Naylor, who was president at the time, did a fine job in guiding us through that and getting us into the system.
That was quite a year or two.
Right, it was quite a year or two. And I know the Omaha University Board of Regents, Bob Spire was the head of it. Very fine fellow. I love the man. He's really a nice fellow.
Yeah.
And great respect for him. He went through a tough time then himself as we were going through that change.
Yeah. But in general, you were very positive about it. You had no...
It had to be done.
Yeah.
It was going to fold.
Yeah. No, we had all those mill levy votes, 2 of them, and neither of them passed, and then Milo decided to...
That was looking forward to being a part of the university system was actually a bright spot as far as I was concerned. Turning down the mill levy was a very dark spot. That said the people didn't think we were doing the job that we were doing. They didn't understand the job we were doing.
And as it ultimately happened, they still helped pay the tab across the state in the same way, but it's just under a different leadership.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, too, that I like to visit with people like you about, Don, is people. I think you'll hardly agree, and from what you've been saying thus far, I think you pointed that up from family on down. The important things in our lives are people, the family, the students, the staff, all the things that make our place up. Now, you've been here lots of years, and you've touched lots of lives, and many of them have been colleagues and administrators. What are some of the names that pop to mind? You mentioned Milo Bale, but some of the other people that mean a lot to you.
Professor McMillan, who's passed away now, he passed away this last January, was a very fine person. He and I disagreed on things, but we could work things through and sit there and talk about it. He was very tough on equipment. I mean, we had to be careful of that equipment because he'd gone through this period when we had very little.
Oh, yeah.
So even when we started getting more equipment, I remember one time we had a fellow named Bill Woodruff teaching for us, and during Bill's laboratory, a little galvanometer got knocked off on the floor and broken. And we were at our next faculty meeting, staff meeting, and McMillan says to Bill that galvanometer got broken in your class. You're supposed to be watching that equipment and making sure that doesn't happen. And Bill says, well, I was at the front table, I looked over there and I watched it. I watched when the student reached past it. I watched it when it caught on the wire caught on the button of his shirt sleeve. I watched it slide across the table. I watched it all the way to the floor, and I watched it break. He said, I watched it the whole time. And Professor McMillan stood there and looked at him, and we all burst out just laughing. We had some good times with Professor McMillan. He was tough, but he was good. He had a lot of good things, and he was really, the students were his focal point, and that was the focal point for the whole department, was the students and getting along with each other, doing the best for the department. And that's what's made it, all the faculty we've had now. Right after him, Bob Schmidt came, and we've had some others. Bob Graham came, Lloyd Ellerbrecht had left, and Ed Lossick had left, and we had Schmidt and Graham and Kasher had come, and then later Flocken and Gunther.
Mm-hmm.
These people are all still here.
Mm-hmm.
These people are all still here. We work so well together, it's just been a pleasure to work here, and they just don't leave.
Just a short amount
We've
of
had a very
turnover.
few that came and have gone, have come and gone.
It says well for the
And
feeling and the morale among the
But
department.
not only that, we have these 5-year reviews, and it shows up in the review of 1986. We had a nationally known physicist come through and review our department, and in the review he says this department should be held as a motto of undergraduate departments across the nation. Their balance of teaching and research is just excellent, and he says it's the finest undergraduate department I have ever seen.
Isn't that a nice
And I think a
accolade?
lot of it is the fact that we cooperate. We have our differences, but we work around the differences for the best of the department. And it shows with the students.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Cohesive department is reflected in good learning and good students.
That's right.
Yeah.
Another person you asked me to name is Del
Mhm.
Weber.
Oh, yeah.
I have the utmost respect for Del Weber. He's a tireless worker. We wouldn't have the buildings we have now if it hadn't been for his raising the money during the 75th anniversary, the diamond anniversary. He is a good friend. He's willing to sit and talk to you. Nobody's beneath him.
No.
He's just a very fine human being, which is to me more important than being a fine chancellor, but he's also a fine chancellor.
He's a very comfortable president.
Yes.
Chancellor, but it's nice to be
Yes.
with.
He's willing to laugh at himself, and that says something nice about a person.
Yeah.
They can laugh
Yeah.
at themselves.
Anybody else that hops to mind?
Oh, Orv Menard, I've always enjoyed and really liked. I would have to put your name on the list, but I don't think you want to hear that
Oh,
particularly. I'd put your name on the list as one of the persons I've always enjoyed and talked with, and
Thank you.
particularly our
Thank
love of Harry James. And
Yeah,
so
we have
forth.
something in common.
And the
Jazz.
there's a lot of others. Bob Spire I mentioned,
Yes.
and the people at the bookstore, Mike Schmidt and Roger Brewer, and our custodial staff. Without the custodial staff that we have keeping things clean, it wouldn't be a very good place to work. They keep it clean, they keep it healthy.
With
they keep
teaching
it
in
bright.
labs, you really appreciate that.
You
don't
bet, and these people do a fine job, and they're really nice people. They do anything when everything's needed. I've worked well with audiovisual, and whenever I ask for a projector or an overhead projector or a slide projector, I get it and it's there. And I've had very good work with Ron Pullen and his staff in audiovisual. The ones I've been most closely associated with, of course, is the engineers and so forth.
Oh, sure.
But I've had good friends in bowling. I got to be a good friend of Connie Clausen, Sonia Green, and those. They're fine. The other people, these are people it's just hard to live without.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a fine group in both staff and faculty here on the campus that those of us that have been here a while can appreciate, I think.
I've taught for years the physics of music, so Paul Todd and Kermit Peters come to mind too as people who have been, whenever I needed an instrument, they always dug up one for me so I could demonstrate it in class. If the students didn't have one, I could bring it over. And I found everybody cooperative.
You know, one of the things that came your way that doesn't affect a lot of us who teach and work here at the university is a real plum, and that is a Great Teacher Award. That means that a lot of students, and among other people, have decided that you're a good teacher. Well, I think you are too, but I'd like to have you sort of put it into words and put it on our tape, what you think for your own experience, or as you look at a model of hypothetical model what a really good teacher is. Don?
It's hard to state in words. When I went back to school to work on my doctorate after I'd taught for 10 years, I looked at these people and I said, this fellow's a good teacher, that fellow was a poor teacher, what's the difference? If this fellow's a good teacher and that fellow's a poor teacher, what are they doing differently? And sometimes it was the fact that one was well organized, but a lot of it was one was available. He would answer questions without putting the student down. The other one would say, well, you should know that, and then give you the answer. And you kind of felt like you shouldn't have asked. The fellow welcomed questions. That was the good teacher. They treated us as individuals. They treated us as if we were important, as if they really were interested in us, and I think that was a lot of it. Then, as my mother had taught me, you treat everybody as an individual. You have a class of 60 people, but there's also 60 individuals out there, and each person has his own problems, and you talk to them, and you hold to the rules. You don't, like I don't give makeup tests. They have to be there for tests. If they don't, I throw out the low test, and that's the one, the other test is going to be zero. I make them hold to the rules because life is going to have rules for them.
Yep.
So you have to hold to the rules, but you also treat them as individuals as best you can. And I think that is the main thing. That and be prepared for class and know what's going on. Under the Milo Bale years, we taught too many hours. We couldn't keep up with the new things.
It was kind of heavy, wasn't it?
And now we've got to the point where we can keep up, and it's been a pleasure. Much nicer working because you know you're up with the times.
Of all the courses that you taught, which ones have you enjoyed the most, Don?
Oh, I enjoyed all of them. It's the students I enjoy, not the courses. And I just have so many. There's so many people put down young people, and we see so many out here that are just, I'd love to have them for my own kids. If I could raise that many kids, I'd like to have them. And I have a bunch in class right now. They're just really nice kids, and they're just really nice to work with. Of the courses that I've developed, I like the physics and music. Music students are a little different than other students. They're not afraid to make mistakes. So you ask a question and they'll volunteer the answer. If they're wrong, so what? They've made mistakes in front of groups before, and it doesn't bother them. A lot of physics students are a little bit reserved. They don't want to give an answer unless you call on them because they're afraid to be wrong. And those students were fun to work with. But I like to teach the general physics. I teach the general physics the pre-meds take now. I've taught the calculus level physics. I like that as well, the general physics. I teach electronics. I like that. It's a lot harder because you have to keep up with more. But those courses are just fun to teach because there's so many applications of physics in their everyday life, and you can talk to them about it, and so they see what the importance is of teaching it, of learning it.
Now, another thing's come to mind. As we record this in the summer of '91, you're still busy teaching. You haven't really retired yet. When's that going to happen for you, Donald?
4.5 weeks. I'm teaching a 5-week summer session. This is the second. We're in the middle of the second week, so.
Okay, when
3.5 weeks. It'd be 3.5 weeks.
When another month rolls by, what are you and Donna going to do to
keep
busy? I know you're going to play a lot of golf, but other than that.
Yeah, we both play golf.
Yeah.
She was 9-hole city champion in '84, so she's a good player.
A fine golfer.
We play a lot of golf, and we kind of have a game going. Whoever wins at golf has to buy supper because our handicaps are very nearly the same. But we're going to do a little traveling. We both love museums, things like that, and we go to a lot of playhouse and opera and this sort of thing together. And we'll keep busy doing lots of things. I want to write a book on the applications of physics and in everyday life, and write it for the layman, not for the student, and try to see if I can eliminate a little of the fear that people have of things like physics. But I'll be starting that this fall.
Why are people afraid of physics? And a lot of them are.
Well, it's the same reason they're afraid of math. In America, the parents don't push students to learn their math and science. So when they get to physics, they really don't have a background strong enough to really start them in so they can do it well. And I think they find it difficult. Those who get through it seem to really enjoy it. But
you need a good sound math background to do it well.
You need a good sound math background, and you need to start the science in the elementary school. My own daughter came home one day and said, how come the teacher says, well, we get to do art, but we have to do science? Well, I went and talked to that teacher because that produces an attitude. And I think that attitude is there in a lot of teachers. They didn't like science when they were in school, and they tend to say those things without meaning to that turn the students off from science. And I think it's something we have to work on. But I don't think we'll work on it very well until we are willing to become elective school board members and things like this.
You know, another thing, Don, that comes to mind. You've been at this teaching business now a long time, and you've been a student yourself. The students back in the early 60s, the students in the 70s, the students in the 80s, and now in the 90s, have you noticed any difference? Are the students about the same as the first ones you taught in terms of interest, abilities, and that sort of thing? Or is our student sort of a different makeup now?
I think they're very nearly the same. A lot of people would disagree with me, but I once in a while pull out a test I gave in 1960s and only order the things that we no longer cover, like the old hand pump, and only order those questions, and they get about the same grades now as they did in 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give as many Fs now, because back then you had to withdraw at the end of the 3rd week. Now you get the end of the 11th week. So a lot of the persons you then gave Fs to and Ds to, they now withdraw. But I gave about the same number of A's and B's as I gave then of the number that started the class. So I don't think they're a whole lot different. I think they're more knowledgeable, but so are we. I mean, they're more knowledgeable about some things that they maybe shouldn't be so knowledgeable about, but I'm old-fashioned. And I'm still believing strongly in the marriage and family and this sort of thing. But I found them all the way through to be willing to work, do extra work on the side that will help them learn. We have students that some of our really good students will help teach our labs, and we didn't used to allow them to do that, but they used to tutor. They used to be volunteer tutors and so forth to help themselves learn. And we have the same thing now. I think those students are just really fine people, all the way. They were and they now are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the quality then really hasn't changed much?
I don't think it's changed that much. We have a larger number going to school now, so we probably have a few. We have more, but you have to take that. You have to take that data and look at the data. The ones we get in physics, we're still getting the same kind of persons we used to get, and it's a smaller percentage of the total population now, because a smaller percentage take science. But
sure.
I did want to mention too. I got the Excellence in Teaching Award in 1984. In 1984, I also got an award from, Governor Carey had run a contest on innovative energies. And I put my home in on that, and I won the Governor's Award, and he sent it in. I won a national competition, and I'm kind of proud of that, because although 300 awards were given nationally, only 2 went to individuals, and I got one of those 2 individual awards.
That's very nice.
All the rest went to companies.
And you're taking care of your home very efficiently.
Right. My home now uses only 40% of the energy it did in 1970, and it has the same comfort level.
Can I move in with you?
You're certainly welcome. You and your wife both. But my highest gas bill this year was right at $60.
Oh my word!
And I have almost 2,000. I have 2,000 square feet.
Good sized home, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, we started into this a while ago, Don. Something else comes to mind now that I want to mention. You've been with us for so long here at the university. As you look back on it, what are the really strong points of the university totally, and some things that you'd like to see change as years go on?
I think the strong point that we've added is the research side. I think the research is a necessary part of education, and it's a necessary part of keeping the faculty up to date. I think we have to be careful and not to do as some schools have gone and just go into research and hire only research people that don't really care for teaching. I think, as I said, the balance in our department between teaching and research has been the strong point of our department. It's been recognized as the strong point of our department. We have some persons who are working on 6-hour teaching loads and doing 6-hour research time, and they have students working with them on research, learning how to do research. And that has to be done. I think that should be done in all the departments. But it shouldn't mean that a person has to do research if he's also involved in learning how to teach, innovative teaching, and also updating laboratories and things like this. Those things have to be done. And it's difficult, right now, it is difficult to get some release time to revise a laboratory curriculum. It's not something that's research, it's not publishable as a rule. You just need to do it. And our department has needed to do it. I did one lab this last spring on my own, but I couldn't get release time for it. And I found that very discouraging, that we couldn't get release time to really do something that is necessary to do in the teaching side that you don't have time to do if you're doing a good job of teaching and taking the full teaching load. And I would like to see that change, but I think the strong point that we have is we've added a research component to the university, and I think that's been one of the strong points.
Yeah. That happened really in the 60s, didn't it?
Late 60s,
Late
early
60s.
70s. Really, by the time we became UNO is when it happened. We didn't have the money before that.
Dr. Garfinkel and people like that are heavily
Yes,
involved.
and Dr. Bowers pushed it.
Yes.
And Dr. Gesselman has pushed it. But we don't want to push it to the exclusion of teaching.
No.
We want to push it as a complement to the teaching, as to improve the teaching.
Yeah, we've been known as a good, strong teaching institution, and that ought to be maintained.
Our university, University of Nebraska at Omaha, probably has as good a record as any school in the Midwest as far as the fraction of students that come through our pre-med courses and then are accepted into med school, because we are good teachers.
Now, you know, we mentioned time a while ago, and you mentioned that in about a month or a little more, you're going to have more time. What are you going to, except for golf, what are some of the things you haven't done in life that you want to do?
I want to get back into photography.
Oh.
I did a lot of work with photography, working my way through college. I was working in the store part-time, and on weekends I do photography.
Oh, is that
We'd
right?
go along, take pictures of a couple holding hands, and then sell them for $1. The paper cost us 10 cents, and the chemicals a nickel. So we'd make a little money on it, and I want to get back into photography. Not so much making money, but the art of it is great. The darkroom side I thought was particularly interesting.
You're going to have your own darkroom?
Where you take it, I don't yet. But
I say you're going to have one.
I may, if I can figure out a way to put it in the house.
Yeah.
But I like that part of it. You can also do it, there's studios that will do this. You can mark out on the negative what the part you want to enlarge, or explain it send them a picture with it, explain it, and they will enlarge it the way you want it.
Sure.
And so it can be done better now than it used to be done that way. But
yeah.
I want to get back into photography, and I want to do some traveling. I've not seen New England in the fall. I want to see New England in the fall sometime. And you can't do that as a teacher.
No. The fall semester kind of ties us down, doesn't it?
I have a lot of former students and friends that are down on the East Coast. I want to visit those. My children are on the West Coast, and I'll be going to visit them, of course. But then there's a lot of places in Nebraska that have little museums. The Stewart Museum and the Hastings, and of course Minden, and a lot of little towns have museums. My wife and I love those little historical things, and we just want to go out and see them. We thought, we've got a book now on places to eat in Nebraska, and we just go out, we'd eat there, stay overnight in the motel or bed and breakfast, and then get up, play golf, and drive back. Just have a little 2-day outing.
Yeah, you're great for moving around even with your golf, aren't you? I
Yes.
know you are.
Well, I love Nebraska. It's an adopted state, but so many people put it down, and it is beautiful. Nebraska, western Nebraska, particularly if you get off the interstate. In northwestern Nebraska, up through central Nebraska, it's just beautiful. Up near Halsey and Thedford. Thedford, Cowpoke is a good place to eat.
So, you know, it sounds like you're going to keep busy.
Oh, I will. I will.
Yeah. And what are you going to miss the most about
the students?
The students.
Yes, they keep me young.
Sure they do.
Well, yesterday I stood on my head up on a table showing them how to work with center of gravity, so forth. And I get a kick out of being kind of a ham actor up there in front of them.
But they get a kick out of that too. Wow.
And I really enjoyed the students and getting them to learn, making them excited about learning the physics. And I'm going to miss that. I know I will.
You know, it's been a enjoyable time for me too, sitting, visiting, and listening to you this morning. Appreciate your coming. And I hope that you and Donna and family will have a long and happy life in retirement now and get a chance to do those things that you haven't had opportunity to do in the years when you've been so busy up at the blackboard and in the laboratory. Thank you, Don, for being with me today.
I'll still be out here.
Good.
Come out for coffee and so forth with the fellows.
So will I.
All right, good.
We've been spending time this morning doing another in the series we call Reflections in Time. Our guest today has been Professor Don Shult, a professor of physics here at the university. The year is 1991, late spring.